You see them, and you know them. Their face feels familiar. Their voice, their posture, even the exact place you met, comes back with surprising clarity. You remember the conversation, the mood, the small details most people forget. But their name? It's gone. And in that moment, something subtle shifts inside you. Not panic, something quieter, a slight discomfort, like you've dropped a small but important piece of the interaction. So you smile, you continue, hoping it won't be needed. Because the strange truth is this: you don't forget people. You forget names. And that creates a quiet contradiction. You can remember how someone made you feel, what they said, even fragments of who they are, but not the one word that seems to define them. So later, when everything is still, a question lingers softly. Why is something so simple, so difficult for me? Most people assume this is a memory issue, but psychologically, it rarely is. Because names are pure labels, they don't carry inherent meaning. They don't explain personality, emotion, or context. They're just sounds attached to a person. And the brain doesn't prioritize sounds without meaning. It prioritizes relevance. So when you meet someone, your attention doesn't anchor to their name. It anchors to how the interaction feels me, what the person communicates, whether there is connection or distance. The name passes through your awareness, but it doesn't attach to anything strong enough to stay. And without emotional weight, memory fades almost immediately. There's another layer that quietly interferes. When someone tells you their name, your mind doesn't just listen, it reacts. Don't forget this. Focus. Repeat it. And suddenly, you're not fully present anymore. Part of your attention is on the person. The other part is on yourself. This creates divided attention, and memory doesn't form well under that condition. Because memory requires absorption, not control. The more you try to force the name to stay, the less naturally it settles. So the moment passes, and later, when you try to recall it, there's nothing solid to reach for. Not because you weren't capable, but because you were never fully there. Over time, this pattern becomes something deeper. You stop seeing it as a small habit. You turn it into a belief. I'm bad with names. I always forget. This is just how I am. And the mind accepts it. Because identity doesn't question itself. It reinforces itself. So when a new name appears, your brain doesn't treat it as something important to hold. It treats it as something temporary, something that will likely disappear anyway. And slowly, forgetting names stops being about memory and starts becoming part of who you believe you are. There's something deeper happening beneath this habit. People who forget names easily are often not inattentive. They're attentive in a different direction. When you meet someone, you don't just hear them. You read them. You notice their tone, their energy, the subtle shifts in how they speak. You pick up on what's said and what's not. And that kind of awareness changes what your brain prioritizes. Because attention is limited. So your mind makes a quiet decision. It holds on to the feeling of the interaction, the impression the person left, the emotional tone of the moment. And it lets go of what feels less meaningful. The name becomes secondary, not because it's unimportant socially, but because it doesn't carry depth. And if your mind is wired to seek depth, it naturally filters out what feels surface level. There's also a softer layer most people don't talk about, a kind of quiet, almost invisible social pressure. Not anxiety that stops you from speaking, but awareness that makes you observe yourself. When someone introduces themselves, your mind doesn't just listen. It asks, am I responding correctly? Do I seem engaged enough? What should I say next? And in that moment, your attention shifts inward. You start monitoring yourself instead of absorbing the interaction. Psychology calls this self-focused attention. And when attention turns inward, memory formation weakens. Because you're no longer fully experiencing the moment. You're managing it. So the name passes through your awareness without grounding itself. Later, when you try to recall it, there's nothing stable to find. Just a faint echo of having heard it. There's another reason this happens. Some minds process interactions more deeply than others. They don't just register information. They process layers at once. When you meet someone new, your brain might already be analyzing how they come across it, what they might be thinking, how the interaction is unfolding. This creates a kind of cognitive overload, not chaotic, but dense. And when the brain is handling too many layers, it becomes selective. It chooses what to keep, and often it chooses meaning over structure. So instead of remembering their name, you remember their personality, their presence, the subtle details that made them unique, which is why you might forget what they're called, but remember exactly who they are. And that difference is not a flaw. It's a reflection of how your mind organizes the world. It's easy to misunderstand this habit, to assume it means you're not paying attention. You don't care enough. You're careless in social moments. But the deeper psychology suggests something else entirely. People who forget names are often not careless. They're selectively attentive. They don't absorb everything equally. They absorb what feels meaningful. And meaning, to them, isn't found in labels. It's found in connection. So while others remember names as identifiers, you remember how someone spoke, what they revealed, how the interaction felt. And that creates a different kind of memory system, one that values depth over surface. But because the world treats names as socially important, this difference starts to feel like a flaw, even when it's simply a different way of perceiving people. There's a quiet realization that changes how this pattern feels. For a long time, the question has been, why can't I remember names? But a more honest question is, what does my mind choose to remember instead? Because the answer reveals something important. Your attention is not broken. It's directed. You are someone who notices emotional nuance, remembers experiences, prioritizes meaning over labels. And once you see that clearly, something softens. The frustration becomes lighter. The pattern becomes understandable. You stop seeing yourself as someone who fails at remembering and start recognizing the kind of awareness you naturally carry. There's one final layer most people never consider. Memory is not just about storing information. It's about how you experience the world. Some people organize reality through structure, names, categories, clear labels. Others organize it through experience, feelings, impressions, connections. Neither is wrong. They are simply different ways of navigating human interaction. And if you've always been someone who remembers people by how they feel rather than what they're called, then forgetting names isn't a failure of memory. It's a reflection of perspective. So the next time a name slips away and that familiar discomfort rises, pause for a moment. Notice what didn't disappear. The recognition, the familiarity, the memory of the moment itself. Because forgetting a name doesn't mean you forgot the person. It means your mind chose to hold onto something deeper. And maybe, in a world that often reduces people to labels, there's something quietly human about remembering them differently. Not by what they're called, but by what they meant to you.